Evolutionists, have you carbon dated your dinosaur soft tissue? Welcome to Revolution Against Evolution. I'm your host, Doug Sharp.
And I'm your co-host, Rich Gear here as well. And Doug, I'm kind of excited about this topic this morning because it's kind of a cutting edge topic when it deals with fossilization and dinosaurs. And of course, I'm a big Dino kid anyway.
Yeah, you're all over dinosaurs, aren't you,
I
Rick?
love dinosaurs. Anything with dinosaurs, I'm in. I don't care. I know Ken Ham and others don't like us watching movies like Jurassic Park. It's science fiction, but anything with dinos in it, I'm going to watch. I love King Kong. I was raised dinosaurs, the stop motion, Willis O'Brien, Harryhausen films. Anything with dinosaurs in it, I'm in. So when you come up with something like this, Doug, I got pretty fired up and started looking. I read the article you sent, and it's a fairly short article, but interesting because I had read something just the same day that you had texted this to me about a mummified nodosaur skeleton and or dinosaur. And a nodosaur is kind of an ankylosaur. I'll kind of raises up a little bit. You kind of look. I'm not sure whether this particular nodosaur. Some of them have clubs on the back of their body. The ankylosaurus is the most famous of the nodosaurs, but you got all kinds of different ones. But that's not what this dinosaur was in this article. This was a hadrosaur,
Yeah,
which is more of a
Edmontosaurus annectens.
yeah. Now this is not an Edmontosaurus; it's a Lambiosaurus, but it's a what they consider a duck-billed dinosaur. Just get rid of the crest here, and that's what an Edmontosaurus is. Kind of looks like that. Although the coloration and the markings, that's an artistic license because basically we don't know what the colors are. We can make some assumptions and guesswork based on some of the mummified, fossilized skin impressions, but outside of that, what the exact colors would be, excuse me, or how the patterns fully go, it's really very speculative. So you're gonna have a lot of fun with that.
I've got the article that was from a secular source here. So I think if
Ah,
you read that, we could probably
go for it.
get an idea of what they're driving at and what key details they might be missing here.
Ah, fair
It
enough.
says in
Good.
a new paper in Science, experts from the University of Chicago describe steps that took place some 66 million years ago to transform carcasses of a duck-billed dinosaur, Edmontosaurus annectens, into dinosaur mummies, preserving fine details of scales and hoofs. Did you know that this dinosaur had a hoof?
Yes, I did. They've actually got that. Yep. Yep.
So it's called clay templating. The external fleshy surface of the dinosaur was preserved over the skeleton after burial by a thin clay mask more than a hundredth of an inch thick. Using an array of imaging techniques, the scientists reconstructed the fleshly appearance of the animal in life, from a tail crest over the neck and trunk to spike row over its tail and hoofs sheathing its toes. Combined with fossilized footprints, the appearance of a duck-billed dinosaur, long guessed but never demonstrated in this detail, is now at hand.
Is this something, Doug? When did this come up? Is this very, this is really
This is brand new. Yeah, I think that
yeah. So you read about the hoof because the dinosaur I have, this Lambiosaurus, actually has the toes differentiated. So what they're saying is there was a sheath over the foot, and it makes more of a hoof, like a I would say more like a horse's hoof or something in a way, but
yeah,
it's not one solid mud. There's actually there must be bony like fingers, but it's covered in a sheath. It's what it says, right?
yeah,
And then what? And then what? It's got something on the back, the tail. It's got
yeah.
like a
It's actually got a spike row over the tail.
what is
So
it called? A spike?
a spike row over its tail, and there was spikes on the tail.
Where on a hadrosaur? Wow. Now that's something I didn't know.
Okay. And it says that it's the first time we've had a complete fleshed out view of a large dinosaur that we can really feel confident about. And then Paul Sorrento, the professor of organismal biology and anatomy at University of Chicago. The Badlands in Wyoming, where the finds were, made it a unique mummy zone, which has more surprises in store from fossils collected over the years of visits of teams of university undergrads.
Okay.
And so apparently there's a whole bunch of these things that they're finding of mummified dinosaur fossils.
And what
But
region is this in, Doug? What region are we in talking about?
Wyoming,
It is
Badlands,
Wyoming. Okay.
Wyoming. So it's probably up in the same area that the where it extends into Montana to the Hell Creek Formation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Hell Creek, isn't that where then have they found some T-Rex skeletons over there and some
Yes,
fossils there? Yeah.
and unfortunately, the land that where they're finding all these dinosaurs owned by a creationist.
Oh, gee,
And
that's serendipitous, huh? Thank you,
and,
Lord, for
and so
that.
there's
That's
a
great.
group that has built the Glendive Fossil Museum there, and they're giving the creation explanation in that museum.
Doug,
And
you and I ought to make a field trip out there someday.
yeah, we'd have to go through, drive out to through North Dakota, which is one of the last remaining states I haven't visited.
Oh, you haven't been to North Dakota. When we went to Alaska, that was my last state that I hadn't visited. I've been to North Dakota, been to every other state now. Thanks to you, I got to go to Alaska, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, have you been visited Canadian provinces?
Yes, some. I've obviously when we were in Glacier, we went up. What was the one? What's the province north? Is it
Alberta,
Manitoba?
yes.
Alberta? Yeah. Been to that one. Obviously, I've been to the eastern ones. I've been to Nova Scotia and New Brunswick and obviously Ontario. But I had and of course British Columbia. But there's Manitoba and Saskatchewan. I haven't been to those. I'm not. Those are the only two I think I've not been to. Well, I'll take that back. None of it in the Northwest Territories. I haven't been there either.
Yeah,
So,
a little bit hard to get to those,
yeah. But
Well, anyway, we have show a little bit about dinosaurs in general, and we have a little stake in it in that when we donated some funds to the Creation Research Society for their DNA sequencing machine, they are working on doing some of that with
oh,
the
that's awesome.
dinosaur soft tissue.
So,
And
and I think, Doug, we should clarify before we go any farther. Maybe you want to do this, but the idea of it being a fossil and a mummy, because there are differences.
mhm,
And believe it or not, in these finds that they're having, and this article I was reading, it's interesting because they actually have some interface where some of these fossilized skeletons of hadrosaur, duck-billed dinosaur type things, they actually have in remarkable preservation, but has cell-like structures are retained, but even some organic material, specifically amino acids, remain intermixed with the sedimentary minerals. And that's what people often don't understand when we say a mummy. Technically, that would be a soft tissue. That would be something that is soft, preserved somehow. And that's not what's generally happening. Although in these hadrosaurs, apparently there is organic material still left over, which is really astounding, Doug. Supposedly millions of years old fossils, which of course we don't believe that. But the idea is that fossils are actually even down to the cellular structure have been replaced have been mineralized by rocky substances. So the actual original tissue is gone, and the new stuff is actually stone. So when you find like a bone, it's actually not really a real bone. It's actually a rock. Okay, unless you have something like we've talked about in our past, Doug, with like the Triceratops horns, and some things in there where they found collagen in soft, stretchy tissue. No, that's actually not been fossilized yet. So fossilized is actually a mineralized whatever it is.
the
The skin
replacement of the
impressions
soft tissue, yeah.
yeah, the skin impressions of let's say the hadrosaurs, they've been the most notable ones. Are still rock or they were originally a clay that it's been mineralized and they made it like a cast, if you will. And I've done a lot of this in my art career, Doug. I make casts of things, and I've done some for trees and stuff. And I make a rubber mold, but in this case, it's a hard rock thing that preserves the structure even down to the cellular level, it's done, but it's not the original material. But in this regard, some of the stuff is original material. When you got organic, amino acids and other stuff that's intermixed with the fossilized stuff, that is astounding, Doug. That to me is just remarkable. It's not only that the information is preserved to what it looked like, but the actual original material is there. It's kind of like, Doug, when I work for the museum, you have stuff that's restorations and stuff that's actually the original artifact. And the restoration might look just like the real thing, but it's not the real thing. It's a replacement that looks like the real thing. That's what a fossil is. But when you got the stuff, but every once in a while you'll have the real part of the building or the real artifact, and that it's the real thing. It's not been done with a prop or manufactured in recent time. It's actually the thing. That's what this is we're talking about. We have to actually have the real substance of the animal here in small parts. Yeah, granted, it's not large tissues, but those, I don't know, those triceratops horns, Doug. And the same thing, you find hemoglobin in the T-Rex with what's her name? I always forget her name.
Gary Schweitzer.
Schweitzer, yeah, who's an evolutionist, and then they found hemoglobin in the T-Rex bones and stuff. This kind of stuff is astounding. But so I think we get a little confused by calling these mummies. They look like mummies because you're getting more than just bones, but they're still mineralized structures for the most part, as opposed to the actual original material. But not always. Not always. We're getting stuff that is soft material.
And here is the thing that we contend with is where they make a claim that this is 66 million years old.
Ah, why don't we
And
bring it
this
back?
is where I made the question in the beginning. Have you carbon dated your dinosaur's soft tissue? Have you carbon dated these fossils or these bones or the rocks that are around them? You can't carbon date the rocks unless it's limestone. Well, you can
Right.
carbon date limestone, and if you carbon date limestone, you get some results you don't expect, and that's why most evolutionists don't carbon date limestone because the half life is too short. If you have a half life of 5,730 years for the half life, you won't find enough carbon 14 to measure in a sample that's 220 million years old. So you won't find any carbon 14 in a 66 million year old.
No.
So, but if you carbon 14 date your dinosaur remains, whatever you got, if you find carbon 14 in it, what that does is it blows away the millions of years. And
So
that is
Doug,
a test
go
that you
ahead.
can go ahead and do and test and you eliminate that as a possibility. You can actually falsify, you can't really falsify the Bible by the carbon 14 dating it. But if you find uh, carbon 14 in your sample, you will definitely falsify the evolutionary
So
scenarios.
Doug, you said that this formation, these hadrosaur, these mummies are found, and compared to this, there is organic material in it. Does the DNA sequencing machine in the lab, are they going to have access to any of this? Do you know? Have you been able to find any of that out, or do we know?
They have access to some of the dinosaur soft tissue that Mark Armitage and
Ah,
the people that have up in the Hell Creek Formation that they got the dinosaur Triceratops sword and a few other things like that.
have they found? Do you know what they found out? Anything? Have they found out anything yet, or anything
They
been published?
told me they scheduled me in around December, the first week of December, to
Ooh, that's
discuss their
exciting.
findings. They're currently processing the samples so that then they
Wow.
can measure it through the DNA sequencing machine. Now, if you find dinosaur amino acids, that's one thing. You find dinosaur DNA, well, that's a whole different ball of wax because
Yeah.
we do know the rate that DNA hydrolyzes, and denatures is what it says. What it's called is that you know, it sort of disintegrates at a
And
certain
what is
rate.
that rate? Can you tell us, Doug?
What is that rate?
Yeah,
I don't have those figures right off the top of me, but and it differs for each type of
I see. Okay.
name. So it would be something that, but it's sort of in the realm of years rather than millions of years.
So a few hundred to a few thousand years
Right.
as opposed to millions or hundreds of millions of years. Yeah,
Right.
okay.
And I
Yeah.
remember in my biochemistry lab at Michigan State University, we were watching DNA. Actually, it was proteins denature in real time in the lab. You can measure how it. I think it would actually cloud up or clear up or do this something like that where
Okay.
it was a very short period of time it took to take something that was active as a enzyme and reduce it down to something that doesn't work. And so
Well, Doug,
that is the challenge that we have for our evolutionists is that if you get some of this DNA samples, how can you then say that's millions of years old? That is the challenge.
you know what they're always going to do, though, Doug? They always defer to the default explanation. Well, that was contaminated. But my question is then why is yours never contaminated that gives you all these long ages
Mm,
for these other dating methods you use, but suddenly something goes to a date that you don't like, and that's contamination.
mm,
This is not science. This is basically a wishful thinking, or if you will, I can't even think of the argument they call it, but you're basically using it's not even circular. It's your end that you want is the only thing you're going to allow to come through. And that's really what it amounts to, in some of this stuff. So anyway, well, Doug, that's going to be exciting news to see what the results of some of this soft tissue sampling. Do we know what kind of dinosaurs besides duckbill hadrosaurian dinosaurs are found up in these formations where these mummies are at? Are there other kinds of dinosaurs?
I don't know the answer to that question,
Okay, fair enough.
but
I'm
what
just
I want
curious.
to do is share my screen here. I have a
All right.
picture of a fossil that they found, and that might help us to understand what we're looking at in terms of
Okay.
a dinosaur mummy. So here we go.
I
Okay,
got
now
Doug.
you can see what they found, and this is actually the mold that they uh, found in the using the imaging tools, and they took the. It says after each sun-dried dinosaur carcass was covered up suddenly in a flash flood. We agree with flash flood. The biofilm of the carcass surface electrostatically pulled clay out of the wet sediment to congeal a wafer-thin template layer, capturing the true surface in 3 dimensions, after which the organic material decayed away and the skeleton below fossilized over longer time scales. So that is the dinosaur fossil that they found there. Let me look at this. They identified a continuous midline feature that began as a fleshy crest along the neck and trunk, transitioned over the hips into a single row of spikes running down the tail, each spike positioned over a single vertebrae and fitted to each other. So
Wow.
this is news to you that
That's very new to me.
brontosaurus has a spiked uh, tail. That's really interesting. And
I
then,
can't wait to see some artist renderings of this creature.
well,
And then
here's one.
the
I
toes are
got
not
one.
differentiated. They're a hoof. There's a hoof instead of the three toes separated. Yeah.
Well, there's a dinosaur. Uh, there's this artist rendering there.
Okay. Can you
And
blow
so
that up any bigger, Doug, for me?
we'll
I'm
do
looking for the
that.
spikes on the end of the tail. I'm not really seeing it. Are you?
They're the little ones.
They're tiny little. Oh, there. Okay. I see a little
So
crest on the top of the head there, but I can't really see much on the tail. Yeah, not really seeing much, but that's all right. I'll Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, that's a little bit of about the dinosaur that they found, and I think that the more we get samples of dinosaurs in the fossil record. Now, this is the thing that we need to understand about flood geology versus conventional geology, which has this deposited down over a uniformitarian span of time with you don't get these creatures buried like this except you have a flash flood. You have to
Yeah.
have
And we think
big,
we think
have,
the flash flood was worldwide.
yes, right.
You know, I because you're right, Doug. Because it even says here, it says they believe that the dinosaur fell into a watery grave with little oxygen present to speed along the decay process. Meanwhile, very fine sediments reacted with the soft tissues of the animal, forming a kind of cement. And that's the outer mold casing. And then that rotted away, but the mold was still in place. And then the bones became fossilized, got mineralized. Because we don't have any. Do we have any impressions of the internal organs on this particular creature? I don't think we do. But I did read, as I told you earlier, I read about a nodosaur, an ankylosaur type thing, where they actually had internal organs that were not mummified but fossilized. So that was kind
Mhm.
of interesting as well. I don't know where that was at. I wish I'd have printed that article out, and then I deleted it before you sent me this article down. But it's out there. We could probably find it pretty easy. But that's
Well,
an
the
ankylosaur.
argument is that you aren't going to find anything today fossilizing. You don't have
That's the argument.
fossilized buffalo. Are there any fossilized buffalo that you know of? Or skunks or raccoons?
No.
So the
Or
question is
birds,
why?
or lizards. No.
Or crocodiles? Do you have any fossilized crocodiles?
Yeah, and if anybody's going to be buried in some kind of weird flash flood, sedimentary thing, it'd be crocodilians, wouldn't it? But we don't have it because decay process comes in, scavengers come
Mhm.
in, bacteria comes in, but we find fossils all over the world, and now we're looking for these things, Doug. We're finding more of these mummified, or if you will, even soft tissue remnants because we're looking for them now. Creationists are looking for it.
Mhm.
But as I said, I gave that Mary Schweitzer kudos because she's an evolutionist and she acknowledged that hemoglobin was found in the T Rex. That is one that she's an honest evolutionist as much as they can be. But most of the time they didn't look for it. Remember that, Doug? Our old expression:
Mhm.
"Your prejudice allows you what you can see."
Right.
They won't carbon-14 date these things because they don't expect to find any evidence or remnant of carbon-14 in them. But creationists will look for it. And just like the matrix of coal and diamonds, I believe they will find it.
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing some of the stuff, interesting.
Well, it says remains of dinosaur mummies found 100 years ago in Wyoming still have skin and hooves. So this is about a fossil that they've apparently known for 100 years.
Well, I sure haven't got boy. It takes sometimes to take academia. I don't think this is some deep dark conspiracy necessarily, but it just oftentimes things get lost, misplaced, or just it takes the process is just so slow for academia to get out and publish their stuff. There's no
Mhm.
doubt about it. And unfortunately, the public is misled for 100 years before they get the true information out.
Yeah, well, this is a pretty interesting thing to consider.
Of
But
course, we said that, Doug, in this article, it's just the explanation, of course, because they believe the dinosaurs were in the water glade, but the explanation, of course, is most consistent with catastrophic flooding. Yale University paleontologist Derek Briggs, who, by the way, was one of the paleobiologists who visited the Creation Museum several years ago, um, believes the amazing preservation may not be so rare either. See, we're looking for these things. Now we're going to find one can't be certain, but I suspect that in many cases, these kinds of skin impressions have gone unnoticed and people have gone after the skeleton, which is, of course, what you'd expect to be preserved. See what I mean? They're not looking for skin impressions
Mhm.
because they wouldn't expect that to be preserved because decay would have set in. Normally, like you said, what you just said, Doug, we don't find mummies or preserved skeletons of crocodiles, lizards, skunks, whatever. We don't find that because you wouldn't expect to see it. But here, if we start looking for these, we're going to start finding more of this stuff, I think, because
Mhm.
the large catastrophic flooding, which is a worldwide flood, fits the boat. What did Ken say, Ham used to or likes to always say? What do you expect if you got a worldwide flood? What do you expect to find? Billions of dead things laid down in rock layers by water action all over the earth. And of course, what do you find? Billions of dead things laid down in rock layers by water action all over the earth. But now we're finding things, not merely skeletons, we're finding casts of the external outer soft tissue, which is phenomenal. And then on top of that, we sometimes find organic material, not merely fossilized material, but organic material. I think that's like three levels here, Doug, of exciting stuff for creationists. What do you think?
I think up in Alberta, they've found quite a lot of unfossilized dinosaur bones, and
That's right.
this sort of plays into what our friend John Gerson wrote about a number of years ago, where he documented that sightings of dinosaurs in history, in the medieval times up to the 1600s, they talked about dragons, and
Sure.
you find in impressions of those the in the castles and uh, uh, in the drawings in medieval architecture and literature. I remember seeing them when we went to Würzburg in Germany. There was a castle there that we went into that had on the impressions. It showed in the ceiling, these dragons or dinosaurs. So they found that they probably saw contemporaneously with at that time. The Alexander the Great reported them, and
Yeah, a large creature. Yeah. Was it chained to it in a cave or was it living in a cave or something? I can't
yeah,
remember.
it was.
Yeah.
Well, Rich, we only have a couple seconds left.
All
Uh,
right. Any final thoughts, Doug, on this? It's been an exciting whirlwind of a tour, I think, you know?
I think that bottom line, evolutionists have a little bit of explaining to do, and
Yeah,
some possible experiments they can do to rule out the biblical model if they really want to. But I believe that the biblical model is not ruled out. It's something that really we can test. It'd be nice for us to carbon date some of
absolutely.
these fossils ourselves. Well, Rich, we'll see you next time on Revolution Against Evolution.
Doug,
We hope
it's
you
been a
enjoy the
great tour.
show.
Thanks.